We're back live talking Arizona Cardinals on Proline TV, the Ourlads Football Network. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and anytime we talk about Arizona, Jess Root from Cards Wire gets to join us once again. How's it going, Jess?
Everything's going all right. It was a terrible season, about as bad as you could absolutely imagine it going, and it was that bad. But now we get the exciting part of the offseason where and for guys that are all about content, when you have like 15 coaching candidates that they've requested or interviewed so far, it means there's lots of content to talk about and to write about. But it's not fun.
Yeah, and look forward to talking to you again, probably in about a week, could be 3 weeks, when we find out who the Arizona Cardinals' next head coach is going to be. But it's if there is a favorite, I'm not sure what the odds are like. I haven't checked it out, but I have to assume that the odds are favoring an assistant coach of the past.
Yes, I haven't seen the odds recently, but I believe the odds-on favorite still is Denver Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, who, of course, was the Cardinals defensive coordinator for 4 seasons under Cliff Kingsbury, which would be an interesting career arc because he was the head coach of the Broncos, got fired, defensive coordinator for the Cardinals was let go, defensive coordinator back with the Broncos, and then maybe head coach of the Cardinals. I don't know.
Maybe he'll hire Cliff as the offensive coordinator.
I joked about that. Why not bring the band back together? Only right. the other way around.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like it doesn't excite fans. Like he's well respected in the building, and my take has always been with head coaches is that there are very few difference-making coaches, and then the rest of them, I don't think that there are at the NFL level there are bad coaches. There are coaches in bad situations, just like there's players. Like ultimately, it has to be the right marriage of ownership, personnel, quarterback, and then luck, because they got to stay healthy. And the Cardinals had, for 2 years under Jonathan Gannon, he looked like a great coach. This year, he looked terrible, but also they had all the injuries. They made a change at quarterback. The change at quarterback was interesting because Kyler got hurt. It looked like he was about to come back and play against Dallas. And I don't know if there was a setback. I would believe it if there was a setback that he had. Like he was almost there, and then he had a setback with his foot to where he didn't start against Dallas. They win that game, and then they decide, okay, we're just going to go with Jacoby. And Jacoby Brissett, for as fine a quarterback he is not a difference maker.
No.
He put up volume numbers and went 1-11.
He's a backup.
And 0-9 after they made the decision that he was going to be the guy, regardless of Kyler's status. They said, Jonathan Gannon said on a radio interview, wild that he did this because Kyler was still hurt. And he said, would you have made this move even if Kyler had been healthy? And Gannon, who normally always says, I don't get into hypotheticals, he did mention that it was a hypothetical, but he said, but yeah, we like the direction of where the offense is going. Once he said that, they went 0-9. And they scored, I believe, after that. I don't think they scored more. I think there was one game they scored 22, and after that, they didn't score more than 20 offensive points in a ball game after that.
Well, look, I mean, I've been around this game long enough to know, I'm sure you have as well, that quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks are backups, veteran backup quarterbacks are backups for a reason. And good ones like Brissett are good because they're good backups that you can count on to come in for a spell. You come in for a game or two, a couple of games, and the starter comes back and you've kept the team afloat. But once you've got to go to 4 games, 5 games, 8 games, you're not a starter. That's the reason. And all the warts come out and all the film is there to see exactly what it is that you need to do in order to stop the veteran backup quarterback. That's why the Denver Broncos actually have a realistic chance, because it's just you get one game and you're in a Super Bowl. So we're not asking Stidham to go out there and start the game 9 times. Speaking of Kyler Murray, so what's all right? So what's the deal here? What's going on with Kyler Murray?
That's a great question. If you believe what they said, that the foot never fully healed, which is really problematic for a lot of reasons, because if that foot never fully heals, then they can't really release him, and those injury guarantees come. So he has some injury guarantees come in, and that's one. I think that was one of the reasons why they decided. Well, culturally, if they decided to go with Jacoby Brissett, they're saying we're not going to let Kyler get in the way, so we put him in IR, and it feels like they're ready to move on. Yeah. There was a report right after the season that said that there is the possibility they could run it back with him. That's ultimately going to come down from what a new head coach comes in. But part of the reason why this position does not seem all that particularly attractive is because they don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. It looks like they're trying to move off of Kyler Murray. And if they move off of Kyler Murray, then your options are Jacoby Brissett, who is 1-11 as a starter, 2-15 over the last 2 years, and 20-45 for his career, who does good fantasy numbers, which the statistical, the volume numbers, he had the touchdown passes, he had the yards, he didn't throw the many interceptions. But when it came to winning football games, was not the guy. And he had 6 opportunities in end of game situations. He had 6 opportunities and was bad. He went 0 for 6 in potential game-winning situations at the end of games or in overtime, and he did not do well. And so either go with the career backup who lost the last 9 games of the season, and they were boat raced by 3 or more scores in 5 of those final 8 games, or you get a free agent, and none of those guys look all that particularly impressive. No. And they have the 3rd pick in the draft in a 1 quarterback draft.
Yes, unless you want to trade down. And because even though there's one, look, I think we've learned long enough in this game that just because there's only, say, one true top 10 quarterback that's coming out does not mean that there's only one quarterback that can start in the NFL. We've learned that lesson. And there are a few guys out there that have the potential. I think the one that just really sticks out without question is Nussmeier, because of where he was supposed to be going into the season. You have to give him maybe give him a mulligan because the offensive line he had lost all of his starters along the offensive line. He's not a mobile guy. It wasn't a very good team. They weren't very well coached on offense. And it's a bad year. And he just, hey, what happens if he comes into the pros? He's got a little experience and he's got the right coaching staff and the right team around him. You never know. Some of the other guys, I think it'd be highly unlikely that some of the guys would be able to start as a rookie. So I see where you're going there, obviously, because someone has to start opening day on 2026. But because I'm taking a look at the free agency situation, and we're going to get into that with the quarterback spot. And everybody talks about, even when you're talking about other teams, I'm one of them as a Jet fan, and they talk about quarterbacks, and you see the quarterbacks that are out there, and they talk about free agents, and they talk about trades. And so if you look at a trade situation for either of these guys, because Brissett is he under contract for another year?
He is. He's under contract for 1 more year.
So is he tradable? With his contract?
If a team's looking, I don't know why anyone would trade for a Jacoby Brissett.
A backup role.
Well, yeah, and if I would bet that the Cardinals don't want to trade him because of his ability in the backup role. And the one guy that people talk about, trade for Mac Jones. Why would the 49ers trade Mac Jones? And why would they trade him to the Cardinals?
Sure. Unless you're going to get better capital than you expected. Yeah, you'd have to. Not in the division, though. I 100% agree with that. No way. But if you're a team like the Jets or the Browns and you're looking for a quarterback, then yeah, I mean, hey, I know you want Mac Jones as your backup, but we want to give him a chance to start, and we're willing to give you a draft pick that is even more than you expected. We'll give you a second, we'll give you a third, whatever. You can't say no to that for a backup quarterback. So,
except like you look at the 49ers, how valuable was Mac Jones for them? Because it was a big reason why they made the playoffs, is because he helped keep them afloat in that weird year.
That's right. No, it's a great point. Okay, so that's so many questions with this Arizona team. It's going to be a very, very interesting offseason for Arizona with all of these questions, starting at the top that we haven't even gotten into anything. And really the two biggest questions really are at the top: coaching staff, quarterback. And isn't that usually the case for teams in this predicament, like the Arizona Cardinals? Before you move on and go through the roster, I do want to, you mentioned the injuries, and you mentioned some of the close games, and you mentioned the start they got off to. And this is the thing. I must say, and I don't know if many analysts really care, but the ones that put in the work and they have to do it for a living, I think if they looked at the Arizona Cardinals under the Jonathan Gannon, that I think you could see a team that improved up until the point that they lost to Tennessee. And it just seemed like everything was going fine. And then the loss to Tennessee, and then all of a sudden, it's like it's an avalanche of losing. Where was he at that point in time with the fan base prior to that loss, prior to the point where it looked like the season was done? Was he already on thin ice with the fans, or were the fans kind of also sensing, hey, we got something good going here? And all of a sudden the losing started, and it really didn't get to the point until it was 6 and 7 and 8 where the fans just started going, oh, we got to get a new coach.
Ultimately, the beginning part of the year where the talk was about replacing Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator, because it seemed like the offense was really disjointed. It never quite got under control. They went from being basically a top 10 efficiency offense for a year and a half with Kyler Murray quarterback with a really good run game, to struggling to run the ball, to being really, really inconsistent in terms of offensive production. And then after that, the talk was, what's wrong with the offense, when their moves last offseason were all geared to improve the defense, because they expected the offense to be at least as good as it was. And it just didn't happen that way. And so while there was concern about Jonathan Gannon, because they kind of faltered late last year after that, when they went 6-4 and they're leading the NFC West and they end up going 8-9, there was some talk, but it felt like that as long, that he didn't have a hot seat. Okay. He didn't have a hot seat. There was concern as long as they didn't have a disaster year, he was safe. And that's ultimately what happened. It was the worst case of all worst case scenarios. And the funny thing about the Tennessee game, it's like they forgot how to win, and they didn't know how to win anymore, because they're 2 plays from being 4-1 at that point against San Francisco. We can point to 2 plays against San Francisco. They had a lead. Kyler Murray throws a ball to Zay Jones. That's a completely catchable ball. Zay Jones drops it. And if he catches that, they run out the clock. They win the game. In that same game, Amari DiMercato dropped a walk-in touchdown, and that would have won the game as well. And then it was Amari DiMercato's, fumble at the goal line when he gave it up. That cost the Cardinals that game too. They changed 2 of those plays. You changed and if you want to get me on a rant, to this day, you can't tell me that there was video evidence that he let go of the ball before the goal line. It was across the goal line when he started to, and it wasn't even out of control at that point. So that shouldn't have, I think there was a message that was kind of the league did, but that play and 1 play against the 49ers, they'd be 4-1. And if they're 4-1 and Kyler Murray gets hurt, guess what? Nobody's fussing. They're a little concerned with the offensive production. At 4-1, no one's good. And then after that, the wheels fell off. They didn't know how to win. They didn't know how to play close. Well, part of it is, They played well offensively in low leverage situations with Jacoby Brissett, and that turned out to be kind of the trend all year. Defensively, they were bad in high leverage situations. Once Jacoby Brissett took over the quarterback position, the offense seemed to go more smoothly, but they were bad in high leverage situations. Anytime it dealt with low leverage, good job. High leverage situation, they couldn't get a stop. High leverage situation, offensively, they couldn't produce points. And that was the way the rest of the year. And then it just got worse to where they're getting blown out of the water. And then the passing numbers turned into just big fantasy numbers. But no, the turning point at that point, the loss to Tennessee and the way they lost to Tennessee, I think it really sunk their sails. It really took the wind out of their sails in that way. And to lose that way, to have Kyler, like the center snap the ball before Kyler's expecting a bounce off his helmet, and then immediately, like after that, he's hurt. It was a bizarre turn of events, that game.
Well, see, this is why. What specifically was it about Gannon that you could look at and say, yeah, he's not head coach material at this stage, or at least not for us? Because again, you throw in all of the injuries that, especially that happened on offense. You talked about the decline on offense. Well, as you know, better than anyone, I'm sorry, but you can't, if you're a team like Arizona, that you're not one of the top echelon teams, you cannot sustain those types of injuries. You just cannot do it. No. And I don't see how it's necessarily that fair to blame that on the head coach. So therefore, again, and the other thing too is personnel. This is something that I'm sure I'll talk about with the guys on our show tomorrow when we all get together for the first time since the weekend and talk about, well, whose fault really was it at Buffalo? I think Bean deserves just as much blame as McDermott because of personnel. And that's exactly, you're going to blame Jonathan Gannon because he's got, players on his team that are not finishing plays that they're designed to finish. Well, how is that my fault? So in that respect, there had to have been something else or at least I hope that the front office, and it was like, no, he's not head coach material because of.
Here's ultimately what it was. I think they still kind of believed in him as the culture builder, but the problem was they just lost too many games at the end of the year. They couldn't bring him back, and with the collapse in 2024, and it wasn't just the losses; it's the way they were losing. So they were still playing hard, but they were playing worse, and so they didn't stop believing in Gannon, the coach. They just felt they had to go in a different direction for results' sake. I will say this: his play calling wasn't good. Like philosophy, he didn't call the plays offensive or defensively. But if his coordinators, Nick Rawlis, Drew Petzing, were a reflection of his philosophy, they changed gears the second they were in a winning position the second half. Offensive playing time, the play calling became very bland. They went into prevent mode far too late. They were not aggressive defensively.
Sounds like a defensive head coach.
Yeah. And he coached. He coached like a defensive guy.
Yeah.
Like, we've got a lead. Let's not mess it up. Let's not mess it up. Yeah. But then on top of that, there were lack of adjustments. They tied themselves to the hip with Jacoby Brissett and saw it go backwards in terms of record. And then on top of that, now the injuries, whatnot, you also have to look at kind of the players that they were expecting to these young players that they were expecting to develop. They didn't develop. They didn't improve. Garrett Williams, a cornerback, was fantastic last year. Now, granted, he had some injuries, but he didn't look good this year. Max Melton, second-year cornerback, he got worse. Trey Benson at running back, they were expecting more from him. Yep. He didn't look good before he got hurt. And so players, Isaiah Adams, who started the season at right guard as the starter, didn't look good. And so players they were expecting to improve didn't improve. Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, great points.
Didn't improve the way that they expected him to improve. Yeah. And so the guys that they were counting on the guys that they were counting on. And so you could look at it from a development. And if you're in the front office, he's okay. We gave you the talent. You didn't develop them. And so between the losses, the lack of development, it was hard.
Sure.
To come back and Gannon looked defeated by the end of the year as it is. Now, could he have come and the quarterback situation was simply untenable at the end because they basically said, we're done with Kyler Murray. And if you simply go with the story, if he doesn't answer the question, we were going to be like, Kyler Murray's hurt. That's a hypothetical. I don't know how I would have done that. He's not healthy. And if they had beat that drum from the beginning, he's not healthy. He's got to get healthy. You could do more. And it would have changed it wouldn't look like a soft benching. It would look like, he's got a foot injury that's bothering him he hasn't come back. Or, if you don't say that, then he could even potentially toward the end of the year come back and get a start or two in because, you get to see what he's got. You get to see how he performs late in the year and you can see, is he going to be able to come back? But now they just made it. They really hurt themselves with the quarterback situation and they just put themselves the 14 losses. It's the most in franchise history.
Yeah,
it's the most in franchise history. I mean, I get why they fired him. I get why they would bring him back, but it was also how could you bring him back
when they lost?
When they were getting up 40 plus a game, and they're losing by 3 and 4 scores over the last half the season.
Yeah, sometimes it's not fair. Sometimes it is. I think this was it could have gone either way, but it makes sense. I get it, and you just got the feeling that something just needed to restart. And they need, but again, whether or not Vance Joseph is the guy, if he intended, if that is the case, you just wonder, is this this is your restart? So there are questions there. And then going to another defensive coach too. That's also something that I'm sure, because since this has been the story now, that it seems like he could be the guy, are the fans upset?
I think everyone, nobody's excited. Nobody's excited about that. It's not good right now. And we know the Cardinals aren't going to pony up the money for the big dogs. And their situation isn't such that the big dogs even want to play. John Harbaugh didn't want anything to do with the quarterback situation. Doesn't seem like Sean McDermott does. Mike McCarthy turned down an interview, 3 years ago? Why would he want to now? Clint Kubiak, he's in the mix. What's he going to do with no quarterback? It's a mix of not having direction, not having the ability to get a quarterback, and ownership and they still owe roughly, this an estimated $11 million per year over the next 2 years to Jonathan Gannon and Cliff Kingsbury. And so if you're going to go out, he's paying 2 other coaches for 2 more years. Now, if Cliff gets hired somewhere, if Gannon gets hired somewhere, that is offset by what they're going to get paid. But you have to look at the Bidwills the Bidwill family who have never been, they've never paid top dollar for
they haven't.
Any coach.
Nope.
And now they're 2 coaches in. Are they going to go and pay $15 million? No, they're going to pay someone $5 million, and that's going to be the first timers or the retreads. And unfortunately, that's the only way to go. And in fairness, it's not my money. I can spend the Bidwills' money, but the Bidwills are in a different situation than a lot of other places because their fortune is the Cardinals. Okay, their fortune is the Cardinals. That is their cash flow. That's a lot of cash flow, but it's not like the unlimited pocketbooks of the Waltons or the Jimmy Haslam and Clay. They've got these massive other ventures where they have unlimited funds. That Bidwill, the Bidwills are a cash poor ownership because they don't have the immediate resources that a lot of other teams have. They're still rich. But they're, in terms of NFL owners, they're a cash poor franchise.
Do you think, to look on another bright side, if it is Vance Joseph, do you think it is more of maybe, hey, let's bring in a guy that can get some respect back and some focus, some professionalism, and let's just try to build something. And then in the next year or two, if it looks like he hasn't put, he's not the guy. He's a great guy. He's put us in a good position, but he's not the guy. Maybe that would give us more time to eventually find the guy. Because like you said, more than likely, it's going to have to be a home run hire, someone that, hey, who's this assistant I don't really know a whole lot about, but the guy turned out to be really good, and he's going to turn out to be the gem head coach that they've been looking for. So do you think that's kind of the potential philosophy, again, considering that there's not much out, there's nothing out there based on what they're willing to pay in order to bring in that type of a head coach? Would you agree with that philosophy?
I don't know if they're, because the way they were talking, the way Michael Bidwell and Monty Austinfort were talking, is the desire to have a quick turnaround, much like the Denver Broncos, much like the Seattle Seahawks, much like the Chicago Bears, how they were to flip it around in a year or two and not do a big long rebuild. After all, they did the longish rebuild. This was supposed to match the Detroit Lions, model, where they went from competitive bad to a competitive mid, and then to playoff contender. And they did that for the first 2 years. And so they want someone to be able to turn things around quickly. Although Jonathan Gannon did build a nice culture in the locker room with the personnel there. I don't know if that transfers from coach to coach, sure. But Vance Joseph is wildly respected already by people in the building, people who are around. And so I guess they have to have some sort of a plan to do this, or the idea is, because of what Vance has been able to do defensively in Denver, is to try and replicate the turnaround defensively. Because if you look at two of those jobs that turned around, Seattle and Denver, how did they do it? They took their defense and made it one of the top in the league. So they believe that Vance Joseph can do that. In year one, they can be competitive because they've turned around the defense and they can figure out the offense. And with the right offense, or maybe they even believe that they could compete if they have a dominant defense with a guy like Jacoby Brissett figuring things out, and a young guy in the mix. I don't know, but I think if you bring in a guy with head coaching experience who's done it before, who can then turn around that defense quickly, then you've got the ability to compete early and then put yourself in a position to be competitive often.
Yeah, well, the problem is we go back to the same thing that we always do when you hire a defensive coach, and that is, well, who's your offensive coordinator going to be? And if you don't find that guy, then we're back to the same old with the defensive head coach. Do you think that Jonathan Gannon, I don't know, I haven't heard anything about, he seems like the type of coach that should be getting interviews for a coordinator.
Yes. He is. He interviewed for Tennessee, I think, for both head coach and defensive coordinator. He's interviewing with Dallas. He's interviewing with Green Bay. So there are, I think he's had 2, 3, maybe 4 teams where he's in the mix for a coordinator position.
And if you had to guess on the whole Kyler Murray thing, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think he is going to get traded?
I don't know if he'll even be traded. I think they might have to release him. Because especially, the contract's not that bad for a team taking him on. The problem is taking it that you can't believe that Kyler is, the contract is not for a flyer, right? The contract's not bad for a starting quarterback. It's kind of like the Sam Darnold deal, basically, for the team taking them on.
Okay.
But if you are trading for him thinking, we'll take a shot on him, you don't want that contract. I think there are a couple of great landing spots for him. Unfortunately, the Jets are a good fit for need. I don't want Kyler Murray going anywhere near the Jets because they ruin all the quarterbacks. They ruin all the quarterbacks. I'm sorry.
Well, they have a new regime, so that's okay. People have to learn. It's a new
lots
staff.
of new regimes, and it's never changed.
Well, it will. It always does. Just like in Arizona, it'll change.
I think Atlanta would be a great fit for him because of the personnel they have there, and it seems like all they've been missing is someone at quarterback to be able to do something. And Michael Penix is out for basically the full year. Indianapolis would be a good fit. Minnesota, if they decide to move on from JJ McCarthy, I think would be a really good fit for him. But that's personally. Who's going
Minnesota
to trade
actually
for him?
Would be nice if O'Connell felt that he would be able to coach him, because you get the feeling that would be great for Kyler Murray's career to get to Minnesota.
Going to Minnesota is great for a lot of quarterbacks. It's been that way for decades. Get a quarterback, revive their career in Minnesota. They've had the magic touch there. But I think they will try to trade him. I wouldn't be surprised if they have to release him, much like they had to do a couple of years ago with DeAndre Hopkins. Unfortunately, I think they kind of played their hand kind of that way. And if there's any doubt about him being fully recovered from that foot injury, because that was the report coming out, is that he never fully healed from the foot. And when you got a quarterback with his skill set, if you've got a lingering foot injury, that's going to be a problem. It's going to take away all his trade value. And so the Cardinals might have to eat that this year. It's going to be a really tough situation unless Vance Joseph, who knows Kyler Murray, is the guy and decides, I can work with that. I can work with that. I know what he can do.
So are you putting it at 50-50? You still with the team?
I'd say 75% gone.
Gone. Okay. All right. So we'll see how that works. That's the coaching situation. That's the quarterback situation. Now the cap seems to be solid, and there's more than enough money at this point in time. And I'm sure they could probably finagle some more money. So the question, of course, is going to be free agents and who's going to want to sign there. Just like anything
money.
that we talked.
Money.
So you've got the money.
It's about money. You're good.
And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about, first of all, if we get into need, the players that are free agents right now. And I'm looking at this list. Let me pop it up on the screen here because it's not an exciting list, which I guess is not a big surprise. But look, 3 starting offensive linemen, but guys who have not really performed. I mean, Beacham's getting up in there in age. So really offensively, there's no wow guys on this list. Is there someone offensively, as far as the free agents right now, that you would think the Cardinals would want to bring back?
Honestly, not really. I mean, Beacham was a guy who turned into a starter but he was a really good depth guy to have. But they've got a couple of young tackles behind. I think they like to have moving forward. I don't see, especially with a new coaching staff coming in. I honestly don't see them bringing back any of their offensive guys. So Jonah Williams, too many injuries over 2 years. Kelvin Beacham, he's 37 years old. Zay Jones did nothing basically in 2 years. Will Hernandez got hurt again. Didn't look good when he played. Pharaoh Brown, he was their 4th string tight end. Like, he was signed mid-season. That's not going to happen. Same with DeGuara. Simi Fehoko was a nice special teams guy, but barely made the squad. Like, it didn't make the team to begin of the year. So Dortch, I think it's going to have to depend on the coaching staff, whether they bring him back, but he's now hitting the unrestricted free agent level, and he's a gadget guy. He's a 4th, 5th receiver who can do returns and is pretty okay in returns. He's not great. So I wouldn't expect any of those guys to come back. I wouldn't expect any of those guys.
Sure.
Period. To come back.
And on defense. And
maybe Aaron Brewer, their long snapper, could come back.
Okay, the long snapper. Because on defense, it's not any different, except you do have Jalen Thompson at safety and Calais Campbell. Has he made a decision yet?
He has not made a decision yet, but he's now 40 years old. And honestly, the idea for him was to come in Arizona and see what could happen. Like, let me see it. Like, make something magical. Nothing magical happened there. If he's going to play one more year, I doubt it's in Arizona.
Okay. And Thompson, is he worth bringing back?
He was basically just an average guy the last couple of years, and they didn't make any effort to extend him.
He's not worth the money.
Honestly, it depends, because he's good enough that he's probably going to get paid more by someone else, better than by another team than by the Cardinals. But again, if Vance Joseph is the guy, I wouldn't rule out Jalen Thompson playing back because Thompson did well for Vance Joseph, and Vance Joseph trusted him in the back end of the secondary.
Okay. Other than that, nothing else there. So yeah, it's not a sexy list. So that makes it a lot easier for us to turn the page and talk about a few other things that are important when you're looking at what the Cardinals need to do to bolster up the depth chart. And first of all, taking a look at the rookie class. So as far as the rookie class went, how do you think they did? There was just about everybody was here on defense, and there were some injuries. But when we talked about the draft when it came out, we talked about this being on paper, it looked like a really solid draft class. That there were some nice bargains, and we'll see how it goes. So how did it go?
Well, problem was he couldn't stay on the field. So Walter Nolan missed the first roughly half the year, ended on injured reserve at the end of the year. But the games he played, if he can stay healthy, oh my goodness, he looked really, really good. And so that health provided, keeping him healthy, he could be a building block on that defense. So promising. Will Johnson early on looked fantastic. Also, couldn't stay on the field, nagging injuries on a lot of different things. And also down the stretch, had stretches of very disinterested play. Okay. But granted, a lot of reasons why you'd be disinterested. But at that point of the season, those were the two guys. But the surprise, Denzel Burke, he actually put Max Melton on the bench. But again, new coaching staff might have a different philosophy, but Burke didn't do terribly bad. He wasn't great, but he was all right. Cody Simon, yeah, and so the great value, but depends on what the new coaching staff comes in. Cody Simon played a lot over the last half of the season. The problem is the second he became a starter was the second the Cardinals started giving up 35 plus points a game.
Okay,
so I don't know what that means as a rookie, but there's a lot to like about him based on what he did in college, his athleticism. He is a guy you can, but I don't like. He wasn't great, and the defense got markedly worse when he replaced Mac Wilson, who was injured for the last part of the year. Jordan Birch didn't do much, but he played a decent amount. And Keaton Crawford, great on special teams and made a few plays on defense, but no one ever Keaton Crawford is not expected to be a guy who's going to be basically more than a great special teams player and maybe rotational defensive player at best.
Okay. And their only offensive guy, Connor, did he get a chance to play at all?
He had a few snaps late in the year, and he was injured for most of the year too. Their undrafted guy, Josh Fryer, did get a lot of playing time late in the year. He was their starter at left tackle after Paris went down. Except in the finale. And the finale, he really got worked over against the Rams. But it looks like he might be a piece, at least that you can count on for depth. Maybe an answer at right tackle.
Got it. Okay, not bad for a CFA. Are there any developmental young players outside of the draft picks, second-year players, third-year players that might be ready to take a spot or battle for a spot that the outside fan may not realize?
The one thing that you'd want to see, maybe they got enough out of him. John Gaines and Isaiah Adams held down the two guard positions for the last part of the year, and their guard play was much better down the stretch. We saw the development of Michael Wilson when given the opportunity to be the guy, up big numbers. A lot of it was garbage time, granted, but he was putting up big numbers. Where did that come from,
by the way? Was that just because there was no one else getting the balls? There was no, or did he take a big step in his development?
It was mostly opportunity. mostly opportunity. They believed in when they drafted him out of Stanford in the third round a few years ago. But the one thing that we've noticed about Drew Petzing's offense is that the passing game comes down to can only consistently produce in three spots, and that's at tight end. That's why they're able to get big numbers to Trey McBride. That's designed that way. Their top receiver, their X, and then everything else is dump offs to running back. And when you had Marvin Harrison for the last 2 years, or Hollywood Brown in that position the first year, that was Wilson playing the Z and then playing a lot of slot, there just weren't a lot of opportunities, not a lot of balls thrown him ways. Now, he's a good player to have on a team. He does a lot of the dirty work, and he did prove that he can carry the load. Now, I will temper this by part of the reason why he was able to put up big numbers is because teams didn't try and defend him, at least early on, the same way they would defend Marvin Harrison. And so combination of different looks coverage-wise, he wasn't as productive in the late games during the late in the year, and a lot of garbage time. Okay. He put up, I think, of roughly a quarter of his numbers were in garbage time when they were down by 2-3 scores late in games. Now, it's production nonetheless. It looks good. He had a 1,000-yard season. He is able to do that. Can he do that on a good team? And that's what we saw, is that Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson can put up good offensive numbers on a bad team.
But at least there is hope that, if Harrison comes through at 1, Wilson could be a solid 2, and you got McBride, and that really gives you the weapons you're looking for at the receiver position. So
100%.
Okay. Any other under the radar prospects? Anyone else offensively or defensively? Any of these 2024 draft picks? Anyone that you think could end up vying for playing time next year?
No, it doesn't.
Pretty bad. Huh?
Rabbit Taylor Demerson. He's the guy who is now slated to replace Jalen Thompson in the defensive backfield. Again, depending on the head coach. Like he was one of Monty Ossenfort's guys. He was this coaching staff's guys, but he play style. His play style is a lot like Budda Baker. He's built a lot like Budda Baker, but he's a better he plays the ball better. He's a better ball hawk. He makes better plays on the balls than Budda. Is one of the things about Budda's career that was honestly the knock coming out of Budda, coming out of college, out of Washington, was inability to intercept passes, and that's been his thing. He's a high volume tackle guy. There's really no other safety who plays like him in the NFL, and Rabbit can do a little bit more. Now, he can be a little too reckless with his body, but he is a fierce hitter. He can get the ball into his hands on the ball. But do I expect it to be great? But no, I think he'll be starting quality next year if the defensive guy that they bring in sees that value. Because also we see with new coaching staff every year that they value them differently. You look, case in point, when the Cardinals went with Jonathan Gannon, you had guys like Isaiah Simmons who was productive under Vance Joseph, and he's done absolutely nothing ever since in the league other than special teams plays.
Does Taylor Demerson basically just take over for Thompson, or is he? Is that different?
That's position? My belief is that what he will do. Yeah, I would anticipate that's the role that he will have this coming season, unless they decide to go a different direction.
Okay, that would make sense. And that would pretty much be it. He would be the one guy. Nothing else from any of these other draft picks. Ketrell Clark, Elijah Jones.
They've shown nothing. Like Max Melton. Max Melton needs to be better. He needs to be better. They were counting on a second round pick in 2024.
I'm sure he will.
And so ideally that gives you a good, and now Garrett Williams tore his Achilles late in the year. So his availability for 2026 is going to be really limited. And so Will Johnson, Denzel Burke, Max Melton gives you 3 young cornerbacks. You can go with that if you believe in those guys, but Melton's playing time disappeared over the last month of the year.
And Let's see. Who else did we have there? Okay. So then, and then, I was going to ask you about Darius Robinson.
Oh, he needs to be better. He had better numbers late in the year, but he hasn't been impactful. His play on the field has not looked impactful, and that's been problematic.
First round draft pick.
Correct.
Let's see. Offensively, anybody? No, I guess not, huh? Nobody here.
Nope. This roster's not in a good place right now.
Okay.
They were what they were supposed to be this year to what they were, and now what you look at moving forward, it's not. It looked like a better roster than it was, and now it looks even more bleak without a quarterback.
Yeah. You mentioned Garrett Williams. So what's his status injury-wise?
He tore his Achilles late in the year. He won't be ready for the start of the season.
Okay. Is there any other player that either has that same type of injury situation or that was injured early in the season and is expected to impact the roster and help it, get it back to normal next season?
We're hoping the hope would be Trey Benson could come back and do that at running back. James Conner as well, but I think James Conner's he's in the last year of his deal. He's going to be a prime candidate as a cut guy, especially with the new coaching staff. Get a little bit younger, get someone in to pair with Benson. Not count on Benson. Unfortunately, they leaned on Benson, and I have some thoughts about that because the way that they handled that running back position is they had a really good balance with in 2024 James Conner being the guy. And then they had Amari DiMercato, who played the third down role extremely well. He's not a great running back, but it was very good in that role. And in 2025, when they said they were going to get Trey Benson more of a role, everyone believed that was going to come at a cost of James Conner's playing time, and that didn't happen. Conner was in the same role, and Benson played DiMercato's role. And Conner, the offensive line play declined. James Conner's play declined. And Trey Benson as a third down back was not as good as Amari DiMercato. And that is kind of what my belief was. Some of the core problems with the offense earlier on the year is that there was the offensive line wasn't very good at run blocking. James Conner was a step slower. And then they didn't get the production in the pass game because Amari DiMercato really kind of solidified that. And so because they had Benson playing a role that he was not as familiar with, and they didn't give him more to take from James Conner, I think that kind of impacted that offense a little bit early on. Now, hopefully Trey Benson comes back healthy, and because the problem was he had that knee injury, he came back, and then either there was a setback or something else, or it just didn't progress. It either was set back or didn't progress as it was expected because he came off of it. Was designated return to practice, and then was reverted because he never got activated. And so there's an injury concern with Benson, but ideally he'd be the guy that could do that.
Okay, and let's see. So you mentioned Conner. That's another question then. Is Conner, so you're saying he is definitely a cut candidate?
Yes.
And are there any other notable players that you think could be cut to save some cash?
Notable. He was notable when he was signed as a free agent, but Bilal Nichols will likely be cut. He's done mostly nothing in 2 seasons. And enters year 3. Justin Jones, they already cut him. They cut him from injured reserve, so he's listed as a free agent, but they cut him during the season, so they're not going to bring him back. Maybe Mac Wilson, who is entering year 3 of his deal, could also be, depending on what the new coaching staff is looking for. Like if they decide to let it roll with Cody Simon, and then bring in a familiar linebacker to that defensive coordinator / head coach's scheme. Mac Wilson is entering year 3. Akeem Davis-Gaither is in the second year of a 2-year deal. So there's guys that you could do that with. Dalvin Tomlinson also, he signed a 2-year deal, but basically it was an expensive 1-year deal with a possible out for year 2. We'll have to wait and see on him, what they think about him. He was okay during the year. He wasn't nearly as impactful as what the hope was.
Okay. And let's see. Okay. So those are the players that might be able to help the salary cap with some veteran cuts. Okay. So let's wrap it all up with maybe the one segment here that a lot of fans want to know about, and that is what is considered the top needs for Arizona outside the obvious, what they're going to do at quarterback.
There's so many.
So is there a definite number one need, or not really? There's 2 or 3 spots that can go number one.
Offensive line for sure, because they have questions at right tackle and at both guard positions, and their center positions in the final year of his deal. So they really, you could upgrade 4 of their 5 positions there. So their offensive line, 100%, I believe, might be number 1. Ignoring quarterback, they need to address running back. I don't know if it's number 2, but the front 7, they've put so much capital into that front 7 and have it not pay off. And it's really been frustrating. They've got some talent there. I mean, you've got Walter Nolan, promising. Josh Sweat, solid on the edge, but Darius Robin hasn't shown much. It's just, you need more from that group. And so offensive line, defensive line again, and then you probably could use like defensive interior and edge and running back and linebacker. There's so many needs. Like they don't have a need at receiver. Like they need a third receiver. But if they still believe in Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, you are okay. Tight end, you feel good.
Oh yeah, of course.
Running back, you don't feel good. Offensive line, you don't feel good. Defensive line, you don't feel good. You at least have Walter Nolan. Josh Sweat, you like, but also he's not the youngest. And you know what he never had in the fourth quarter of any game? Didn't have a sack in any fourth quarter of any game.
Wow.
You've got cornerbacks that I think you can trust. And so maybe you cross cornerback off the list, but yeah, it's offensive line, defensive interior and edge, running back, linebacker, safety, and then all your specialists.
Okay. And so would you, and as far as the receiver situation, so you think then that the third guy is what role would he play? What kind of receiver do they need if it's Harrison and Wilson sandwiched in between them?
Well,
speed guy, possession guy, size.
You know, they could use a burner, like one of those like speedy guys. Like, it's like Michael Wilson doesn't have long speed, but he's super quick. Marvin Harrison has wheels. He doesn't play like it a lot of time, but what would be actually really helpful is if they had a true speed, like top of the. Greg Dortch wasn't that guy. Xavier Weaver had the potential to be, but there's no one on the roster. You're like, oh, pure speed. That's the guy, the type that they need.
That makes sense. And okay, and by the way, so with Harrison, I mean, is it? What do you think the main problem is? Is it injury or
this year was injury. This year was injury because
you're willing to give him a mulligan because of that.
Yeah. He started to look a little bit better. Like he had the right mentality early on. There was inconsistent production, but there was inconsistent production in the passing game period when he was healthy. And with Brissett, he had a big game, but then he had appendicitis. And he had appendicitis, then he had a concussion, and then he had the heel injury. And so it was really kind of he's
talented. He's talented.
Very on brand for the entire season. Yeah. It was so on brand for the entire season.
Okay. And special teams, so they're going to need a whole new unit, you think? Or is there someone there that a couple of guys that they're going to keep?
I mean, Blake Gillikin was out the last half of the year with a back injury. Matt Hawk looked good, but he's a grizzled veteran. They need a punter. Chad Ryland wasn't it. He's going to be a free agent. They added Joshua Carty. He's technically on the roster, but they didn't use him late. So I think they have a guy that they're going to start the offseason with. I don't know if you're going to be able to count on Carty because like he was cut by the Rams. So. Sure. And Aaron Brewer's spent the last 10 years as the Cardinals long snapper. So at his age, it's just a matter of does he want to keep playing? And also it'll depend on who's the special teams coach. Because the Cardinals special teams coach, Jeff Rogers, he's been the guy since Steve Wilkes. So he lasted 3 coaching staffs.
Wow. Does he deserve to come back?
Yeah, special teams have been fine. Okay. And he's well respected. I wouldn't complain about that.
All right. Well, Jess, I appreciate it. As always, what's up for Cards Wire? What are you doing right now as far as content?
Well, right now is focused on the coaching search, and that's been the number one focus. The coaching search, we're going to hit hard with the draft and free agents, and we're going to break down the roster. As soon as we kind of know the direction of the coaching staff, we'll break down the roster, the players, free agencies, and stuff like that. On the podcast, on Rise Up Sea Red, the best hour Cardinals talk on the web, we're doing the same. Talking coaches, and then we'll have all sorts of off-season content. I just recorded former Cardinal quarterback Chris Streveler. I just had him on the show today. That'll be releasing, I think, on Thursday. And then Seth Cox and I, my co-host, will have our weekend, our championship weekend, our conference championship weekend preview picks and predictions coming up later this week.
Excellent. Do you have like one day a week that is considered your main day?
We usually do. So we do 2 to 3 shows a week. This week is probably going to be 4. So Wednesday, Friday, Saturday is usually when they drop, but it's going to be Wednesday through Saturday this week.
Are they live?
No, they are recorded. They're recorded.
All right. Well, we've got links in the description so you can check all of that stuff out. And at some point, we'll, again, if there's a big news on the coaching front, we'll look to have you back, maybe just to let us know how that went down. And then we definitely will talk to you after the offseason concludes with the draft, after free agency as well. So, Jess, I really do appreciate your time as always. And look forward to talking to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you. All right, so that is Jess Root, Cards Wire. Check out the links in the description of this video. And Jess, as you could tell just by what he said there, he has a lot of content for you Cardinal fans. So you want to check that out, both written and for his podcasting. And it looks like Arizona, if I had to pick a team, well, really, if you had to pick 2 teams, and you might throw Cleveland in there too, that you're looking to bring in a new head coach, even though Tennessee's already hired their head coach. But those are the 3 teams that need head coaches this offseason that, it's, I might look at Tennessee and say, well, they at least have their quarterback, or at least that's what they hope. They have their quarterback. But Arizona's got a coach quarterback issue. Cleveland has a coach quarterback issue. And that's why I'd have to put those 2 teams, Arizona and Cleveland, near the top when it comes to the teams that need new coaches this offseason, and which 2 teams really have their work cut out for them. They're gonna have these. This is an important offseason to get things right, and it's gonna be very hard to do that this season. The Raiders, at least, even though they need to hire a coach, at least they've got their quarterback. So that is a big step as well. So Tennessee has their quarterback. The Raiders have their quarterback. And then, of course, you got some of the other teams. And we already spoke to Kevin Knight about Atlanta. So we talked about the Stefanski hire and their quarterback situation with Penix. And Jess just talked about it. And Kevin believes that there is a possibility that Penix could be available pretty early on. And if he is available, then a lot is also going to depend on what they want to do there with their new head coach. So But at least they look like, talking to Kevin, that this is a year for Penix, that there's going to be enough time for Penix to play and for Atlanta to go down that road and to see if he's going to be the guy in 2026 and beyond. So again, not a great position to be in, but there is talent on Atlanta, just like the Giants. There's talent on the Giants, but they're in a much better situation. Out of all the teams this offseason, the Giants are at the top of that list because they were able to hire a coach like Harbaugh. They have their young quarterback in Dart, and they have other talented players around them. And I spoke with Ryan Dudley of the New York Post earlier today, so you can check out that interview as well here on the channel. So that's going to wrap it up. Now, again, tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we are going to be talking. Mark Lawrence will be hosting the Playbook ATS podcast. Jim Feist, Andy Iskoe, and I will be there. We will preview the championship games. So a lot to talk about with that. We'll go over the coaching changes as well. And then probably even recap the championship game on Monday from college football. So that's tomorrow, Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern. And then on Friday, I will be interviewing Adam Patrick, who will come on to talk about the Minnesota Vikings. So we had our Detroit interview scheduled for Thursday. We had to reschedule that for next week. So Detroit is now moved on to next week. And then, look, if we haven't interviewed your team yet, and that's most of you guys, we're getting to you. Trust me. So we have a long list. That's why I wanted to start this as soon as possible, because I have a long list of guys that I need to talk to as well, because we have the Ourlads draft guide coming out as usual for 2026. And I'm responsible for, I think, about 10 out of like a third of the teams, regarding information that you set up. There's 32 teams, obviously, and all 32 in the guide. We have a page for, actually a couple of pages for, and we go over each team and talk about the needs and the positions. And so that's why I want to get all this stuff in as early as possible for myself, so we can put all that information in for you for the Ourlads draft guide. And I know the most important thing that you want for that guide, though, are the prospects. And that's why you want to keep in mind that even at this time of year, I know they have to update it, and they will real soon. But the Ourlads draft guide, if you can, let's see what we have here for the latest on Ourlads. Here we go. Let's check out their. Let's see if I can get the. There it is. No, I don't. Come on, give me the. Are you really not going to give me that? There it is. So this was their latest one that came out. But again, this was still a couple of months ago. So they're going to update it. I already have expressed my desire as a Jet fan for the past several weeks. Ruben Bain, and I believe he will be the second pick for the New York Jets. And my ideal draft for Jet fans is Ruben Baines and Caleb Downs in the first round. Got a lot of capital to pull that off, but we can only wish as Jet fans, because we're in the same boat pretty much as you guys in Arizona. But anyway, getting back, this is what you're going to be looking for in the Ourlads draft guide, and there's going to be hundreds of scouting reports of all of the players that you are interested in for the draft. So there's material content on all these key guys. List of players, everything that you want to know about a majority of them. It's the best draft guide out there. So check it out, the 2026 NFL draft guide from Ourlads. We have links in the description of this video of how you can order them as well. So that's that for football. I will be on also tomorrow at 4 o'clock to talk horse racing. So if you're into horse racing, we've been off for about a month. We're going to be back all the way through till the Kentucky Derby and beyond, and a little break. But for the most part, we might take a few weeks off here and there. But the break is over, and we're going to be talking horse racing at Gulfstream Park tomorrow, Thursday, 4 o'clock, right here on Proline TV. Not on the Ourlads Football Network, but on Proline TV. So that's the way our schedule looks the rest of the week. I will be seeing you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock, along with Mark, Jim, and Andy on the Playbook ATS podcast. You can also check us out on streaming. So you can check out in case you just really just want to listen to the shows from time to time. That's available on streaming. And we'll see you guys again real soon here. Again, thanks to Jess Root from Cards Wire. I'm Greg DePalma.